Great. Well, I've just hit the record button, so we are recording. It's a real pleasure to have everybody with us today for our August 2021 DAG monthly meeting with Septa. My name is Eli Storch. I'm the chair of the Design Advocacy Group. Pleased to have some steering committee members and all sorts of DAG folks, as well as other interested parties with us today. But before we get into the program, we wanted to just have a couple quick reminders, a couple announcements. If you have any announcements, events, programs, news that you'd like to share, please put it in the chat. We'll make sure to either call it out and point people to it or ask you to unmute and say a few words and share a little bit about it. So while you're doing that, as we get going, if you have any technical issues, you can message me, you can message the DAG fellow, Lachelle Weathers, or David Brownlee. We'll do our best to help you out with any technical issues. And typically our DAG meetings, we have had them off of the record, but given our ability to share these and post them to a wider group through Zoom, as you saw when you came in, this meeting's being recorded. It'll be available on our website soon. So if you want to share this later, you'll be able to grab that link from our website and share that more broadly. We'll post that on our social media as well when it's ready. And so because we're doing that, you can head to our website. You can see some of our most recent events. You have a bunch of them up there. Most recently, we spoke with Leslie Smallwood Lewis of Mosaic Partners, looking at their work at the Navy Yard and their plans for ongoing development down there. And before that, we had Dr. Bill McKinney talking about catalyzing community development and some of the work that he's doing in that community with New Kensington CDC. So go check them out. Go check out our website. There's a bunch of good stuff on there. And if you like what you see, please click on that support button. It goes a long way for us. After our last meeting, Pamela Rainey Lawler, I don't know if I saw Pamela in here today, sent us a generous contribution. So we do really appreciate that, and every bit helps. So if you like what you see, please send a few bucks our way. So I'm going to pass it over to David Brownlee for a couple announcements and a little talk about a DAG event. David?
Right, thank you. A couple of things to mention. First of all, I want to second Eli's request. Please, if you like what you hear, help us to continue to do it. It doesn't cost much to run DAG, but it costs something, and $5 or $10 would go a long way. A couple of announcements on the advocacy front. As many of you know, DAG has long campaigned for increased funding for the Historical Commission and the City Planning Commission. I'm happy to report that a majority of city councilmen post-budget have sent a letter to Mayor Kenny asking for a reallocation, sending additional budget monies to the Historical Commission to enable them to staff up to handle what is now an increasing clamor for the designation of properties, beginning with the proposed Christian Street, so-called Doctors Row Historical District. That's good news. Bad news is that, as we have discussed here several times, the Reading former railroad company has neglected and now is and had begun to demolish its Spring Garden Street station right next to the viaduct on Spring Garden Street. It's reported that demolition has proceeded and is virtually complete at this time, a significant lost opportunity. On a happier note, next Thursday, DAG is hosting, well, we're calling it a happy hour under careful COVID era restrictions at the extraordinary exhibition of Denise Scott Brown's Lifetime of Photography, an exhibition at the Temple Contemporary Gallery called Learning to See, which is really her autobiography and photographs. And it's a powerful and really brilliant presentation of materials. Our event is next Thursday, the 9th of September, from 5 to 7 o'clock at the Temple Contemporary Gallery. Find out about it on our website, designadvocacy.org, and sign up. you will be asked to certify that you are fully vaccinated. You will be asked to email a photograph of your vaccination card to our DAG fellow, Lachelle Weathers, upon registration. And we will be admitting only people who have completed that. We want this to be a wonderful event. We want it to be a safe event. There will be food, there'll be a cash bar. And again, contributions will be invited at the time that you register. Again, to register for that event, September 9th, 5 to 7 p.m. at the Temple Contemporary Gallery, the exhibition called Learning to See, go to the DAG website, designadvocacy.org. With that, I'll hand it over to Marcia.
Thanks, David. So it's always exciting to anticipate a new season and then to dive into its activities, and especially this fall. Many will be in person, such as our happy hour, but for the time being, DAG will be continuing its virtual monthly programs. On September 23rd at 10 a.m., Nando Mikhail, DAG's co-chair of our Waterfront Task Force, will be presenting a preview of its plan for advocacy for the future of Grays Ferry. So mark your calendar, September 23rd at 10 a.m., and we'll see you then. Eli?
Thank you, Marcia. Yeah, I think we have some interesting stuff coming up, so check out our website. There'll be more events popping up. Our calendar's filling up. We're just confirming some dates, and then those will all get posted. Donna Carney, do you want to unmute yourself and talk a little bit about the Citizens Planning Institute?
Oh, thanks, Eli. Yeah, I just put that into the chat. Our biannual course series, which is 8 weeks long, is open for applications now. The deadline is September 10th. You can go to citizensplanninginstitute.org to find the application form. This will be the third time we're doing it online virtual course, which has been interesting, but we still have lots of people interested in applying. So we appreciate any and all of your help in getting the word out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. If folks have other announcements, events, keep putting them in the chat. We'll make sure we're pointing to them. I just saw something pop in here. Christy Schneider, of interest to those in regional planning, ecological histories and water. Science History Institute will open downstream an exhibition about the history of water testing and water protection with focus on the city, state, and federal roles over 200 years. So head to that website, which is in the chat now. Thank you for posting that, Christy. And that'll be an interesting exhibition.
Folks, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. There's a little bit of feedback happening.
So with that, I think we want to jump into our presentation today. Throughout the presentation, we'll be taking questions in the chat that we'll have a Q&A afterwards. So please fire away with those questions so that we have some good opportunity to talk to our speaker. And I want to introduce George Claflin, my colleague on the DAG steering committee, to introduce today's speaker. George?
Thank you very much, Eli. I want to introduce, it's a great honor to introduce Leslie Richards, and I want to do it in three short parts. First, I want to give my resume as a transit user. I'm a frequent user of the 32, the 48, and a long-suffering user of the 7. Long-suffering because it doesn't come that often. All the drivers are wonderful and skilled. I want to say something also about Septa. I think Septa has risen to the level of the Phillies and the Eagles in Philadelphia, in the sense that we love Septa, but we also analyze, criticize, and second guess every decision that Septa makes. And this has gone on for many, many years. Septa is, in fact, the 6th largest public transit agency in the country. It is one of 2 that operates 6 modes of public transportation: bus, trolley, interurban, that's basically a trolley on a private right-of-way, trackless trolley, heavy rail, that's the subway and the L, and regional rail. It's an amazing system, plus paratransit. MBTA in Boston runs all those also, and they also run ferries. So maybe SEPTA will buy some boats to and compete there as well. It has a budget of $2 billion, 9,500 employees. I won't go into all the statistical details, but it has 285 subway and rail stations, 13,000 bus and trolley stops, and 150 routes. It's an extraordinary organization, and it's the one of the life threads of our region. Leslie Rich, two of the legendary directors or managers of SEPTA were railroad people. I think Lou Gambaccini and David Gunn, and Lou is unfortunately deceased. David Gunn has retired to Prince Edward Island, which probably does not have any heavy rail on it, to a family homestead. Leslie Richards they were both railroad people. And SEPTA had a long tradition of the manager being a railroad person. And certainly the integration of the suburban lines is an amazing feat that was pulled off a number of years ago. Leslie is the first planner, which to become manager. And this is of great interest to DAG because we're very positive on planning and urban design. Leslie was, of course, appointed by Governor Wolf to head Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, which was one of the largest and most innovative transportation agencies in the United States. She's also a strong advocate for women in positions and diversity in transportation and government. And she's been recognized for this numerous times. She has a bachelor's degree in economics and urban studies from Brown and a master's degree in regional planning from the University of Pennsylvania. And as Eli said, we'll collect questions in the chat and try to have discussion afterwards. Among the many interests of DAG are the design issues, design of stations, design of routes, design equity, transit-oriented development, and anything related to design and planning. And we're also very appreciative of the fact that SEPTA has for many years nurtured a program called Art in Transit. So without any further ado, I will introduce Leslie Richards. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Sure. Thanks, George. That was a lovely introduction. I got all excited actually listening to you. Look, for all of us, the last 2 years have been challenging to say the least. SEPTA's in a very unique, I would say, a once in a generation, challenges in front of us, just like many of you and everything that you're doing. I'm really looking forward to spending some time with all of you and answering your questions. What I've done is I've gathered about 10 slides. My team have put them together so that I can give an intro of what's going on, but I'm happy to answer questions that pertain to the slides as well as questions that don't have anything to do with the slides I'm going to present. And again, I look forward to it. And I also just want to thank George before I begin for thanking our operators, our frontline workers. They have done an incredible job since the pandemic began. They've always done an incredible job and they continue to do so. And all of our employees have just really, really risen to the calling, but that again has been like none other since March of 2020. So with that, let me go through a few of the topics that I've been asked to address, and I look forward to the discussion wherever it goes. And if anyone has a ferry system for us to run, that is a challenge that I would love to take on. So let us know. I actually just rode the River Link the other day to see a concert over at the BB&T, and so I was looking around in case the opportunity ever does present itself. But with that, let's go to our first slide here. Okay. As been mentioned, I am a planner, thrilled to be leading Septa at this time. I know that my colleague Lex Powers spoke to you, I believe, at the end of last year, and he provided a few updates. I'll let you know where we are from there. I was the first planner to lead PennDOT, which was really a wonderful experience as well, and helps all of us, as we start to build an equitable transportation system for everybody. As I mentioned in the beginning, COVID-19 response, that has definitely been the overall theme of my work here at Septa. I started in January of 2020. And got to lead for a couple of months before we went into emergency mode here. So just wanted to give credit again to our frontline workers. We never stopped operating, got our essential workers to where they needed to be. We made sure that we made the changes that were necessary, where we have gone into enhanced cleaning protocols. We provided testing for all our employees, and now we've provided vaccinations for everybody as well. Next week will be a big week for us. We are running a bunch of programs here. We'll have ambassadors welcoming people. We know that return to work is starting in some way, although not as robust as we had hoped now with some of the latest changes going on, but we are ready. As of tomorrow, we'll be welcoming 65,000 Philadelphia school children onto our system as they begin school. And we really look forward to the enhanced activity, and you will all see, that we are ready and really welcoming everybody to come on, and everyone will feel safe as they return to our system. Masks are required, just to remind everybody, for our employees, for our customers. That's CDC and FTA guidelines. We will continue working on that. Next slide, please. So we adopted a strategic plan, something that I felt extremely strongly about when I came on board. In fact, when I was vetted for this position, I let the board know what I had wanted to do moving forward. They agreed, so we had full backing from the get-go. And so glad we started this before the pandemic really hit. So we adopted Septa Forward, and it is a vision for us moving forward. What do we need to be? And we know that we need to be flexible, agile moving forward. We had no idea, how flexible and agile we would need to be. But we are very, very proud of our strategic plan. All of our travel surveys and the current riders right now are showing that our riders are more likely to be female. They're more likely to be people of color. They're more likely to be people with lower income. They're less likely to own a car than our pre-pandemic ridership. This is really, new information for us, and we are reevaluating everything that we do with an equity lens with that in mind. We know that we have the ability to truly be a driver for equity, and we're working with the city, we're working with different nonprofits, we're working with different advocacy groups, continuing that discussion. And we're really happy to be part of that discussion. We know that we have to adapt. We know that we have to win our riders back. We know that with working from home, with people maybe coming into the office 2 days a week, 3 days a week, maybe not 5, maybe not at all, how people are using our system, how women and the new demographics of our ridership, they need it for errands, they need it during the day. It may not be so heavy on peak times, that schedules will be changing. And so again, we want to ensure, as our plan says, a resilient, prosperous, and equitable community for everyone. And that is what everyone here at Septa is working toward. Next slide, please. So our vision breaks up into 3 goals. I mentioned before, we want to be proactive. And so we want to understand our new ridership, what the challenges are ahead. And we want to really make sure that our entire system, for our employees, for our customers, for the community, that we are inclusive and that we are helping build this equitable future for everybody. We also want to make sure that our system is easy to use. A lot of that will come down to this community here, helping us with design, helping us make things easier to use, helping us to make sure that things are easier to understand, and then making sure that when people get on our system, they can use our free transfer that I'm very proud that the board passed during the pandemic. And again, be what we need to be, because that we know we connect people to opportunities, and we really want to help others. We know, again, as I said, teleworking and our lifestyle network that we are working toward, which will be through the day so people can shop, get to medical appointments, be where they need to be, meet friends for lunch. That is who we are. And so we are taking that action. Next slide, please. So, we're moving forward here and making sure that we meet the future needs of the region. And we're working very hard to make sure that we are ready for that. So we do have projects of regional significance that are critical to meeting those future needs. And like everything else in transportation, things take a long time. You've got to, get the concept, you've got to plan for them, you've got to implement them. And so we're working right now to replace vehicles on the regional rail. And we do operate one of the oldest rail fleets in the nation. I would say I've yet to find a rail fleet that is older, but I don't want to take that title just in case there's someone else out there. But it is, it is really running out their life expectancy, these rail cars, and we need to enhance them right away. And so we're also looking to enhance the capacity on our subway Market Frankfurt line. We're very lucky to have such a foundation to our transit system. Other cities are envious of that. And so we're looking for that as well. One fact that I do want to share with you is that an analysis of our proposed projects of significance show that regional employment growth is anticipated to be accelerated by more than 50% over the 30-year time horizon coming in here. And so that will generate over $17 billion in local and state revenues. It'll be 2.6 times return on investment. We're looking at the data and we want to be here for that growth. Next slide, please. I believe Lex discussed our wayfinding master plan to make it easier for us to work on. I'm very happy to report that we'll be revealing some wayfinding concepts next week. September 7th is where we will be showing renderings of our new signage. Please comment, please let us know what you think of them. New maps will be being shared, a new graphic style will be being shared. And some new terms and vocabulary to make navigating Septa easier for those who grew up in the area. Septa is really its own language and we don't think about it all the time. But when someone from outside of the greater Philadelphia region uses Septa, not so easy to use, not so easy to know where all of these long named stops are and which way to go. And so we really do want to make that transition. And so again, everything that's going to be shared is a starting point. No decisions have been made, but we had to present concepts and issues so people could comment on them. And we really do look forward to a very strong and healthy public engagement to learn. This is a big deal. We've been doing a lot of research and outreach leading up to this step, and many of you on this presentation have helped us out. So I just want to thank you all. And we know that we had representation from DAG at many of our stakeholder workshops that I was part of, as well as our steering committee. Next slide, please. This is just an example of what you'll be seeing next week. I figured who better to share this with than DAG. And so I know that when Lex came to speak to you and get your thoughts and priorities, we did take your feedback, as you will see. We want the wayfinding to be practical, obviously to be useful. We want to make it easier for people to use. We want to make sure that people with disabilities can see it and access it as well. And as well as people who may not speak English as their first language or may not speak English at all. So the symbols are very important. The graphics are very important to keep everybody mobile and make sure that they can get to where they need to be. We're looking at what we call, our Septa brand as well, to make sure that it is out there. When I travel, I'm well aware of world famous wayfinding brands such as in New York and London, and I would love to have that here in the Philadelphia region as well. So we are really looking to create something that can be an icon for Septa, the Philadelphia region, that can be recognized locally, nationally, internationally. I'm optimistic that that's what we'll be creating together. We've been working with the Philadelphia Global Identity Partnership to help create this strong brand. And you'll see some similarities between our transit brand and the one they're developing for the 5-county region. They're looking to that as well. Just a reminder, I'm sure everyone knows, but I do have to remind people that Septa serves 5 counties, right? So it's Philadelphia, and then it's also Bucks, Montgomery County, Chester, and Delaware counties. Next slide, please. So here we are, the renderings, the website again will be available on September 7th. You can check it out. It's at the bottom of the slide, planning.septa.org. And we'll be available. And of course, we're happy to meet with DAG and other members of the public this fall. We're looking forward to having those discussions. Next slide, please. Our trolley modernization is also another large project of significance that we are working on. We really, this is at the heart of our mission of delivering safe, reliable, sustainable, accessible, customer-focused public transit services, modern and accessible trolley system. As you heard in our introduction this morning, we are one of the only transit agencies in the country to have as many modes as we do. We are a legacy system. With that comes what we've inherited. And when a lot of these trolleys were designed, it was before cars were designed, obviously before ADA was into legislation. And so our current vehicles are not ADA accessible, and this will get our trolley network, which is a vital part of our system, ready, and so that it can be easily accessible for everybody, including passengers in wheelchairs, small children, others. It'll also help with our Lifeline service as people use our system to do shopping and other errands throughout the day. Being able to just with one step get into our trolleys will be huge and not have to go up the narrow stairwell as it exists now. So this program is going to catalyze over 38,000 permanent jobs. It's going to have direct access and get people to 350,000 job opportunities that include major healthcare centers and large job centers in Center City and University City that you can directly access through this trolley system. We're very, very excited, and also just want to remind everybody that this will provide high capacity transit to disabled, transit dependent, disadvantaged, and minority populations in our service area. That is 59% non-white, which is compared to the region's 36% non-white population. And again, trolley modernization is a big part of our network that will allow us to do that. Next slide, please. So we're keeping everybody moving. As we do that, our bus revolution as well is a comprehensive bus network redesign. I feel very fortunate in talking with my colleagues. I hesitate to use the word jealous, but they are envious in some ways that we started this process again before the pandemic. We were lined up, we kicked it off. And so we truly are going to be one of the first agencies to look at, and see what the needs are after this pandemic, as we start our recovery and seeing what that looks like, and have a bus network that is truly going to service the current needs as they develop, and they're developing in front of them every day, and they are changing every day. So it's wonderful that we're going through that system right now, and keep an eye out. We also will need a lot of public engagement for that. We also are working with nationally known, internationally known contract with Nelson Nygaard. They're kicking off this 3-year redesign and implementation. And again, extensive outreach to customers, residents, stakeholders. We look forward to working with the DAG community as we move forward. Another project is our King of Prussia Rail. This extension will allow us to connect to the 3rd largest employment area on our system. So that will be Center City, University City, and now King of Prussia. We're very excited. We got our final environmental impact statement and the ROD decision earlier this year. And now we're moving and implementing design. So those are the topics that I wanted to cover here while we had all of you here on the line. And so in closing, and I'm ready to open it up to questions. I believe the next slide is just just showing all of our the value propositions of what Septa believes in, of course, and our important role in how we drive the economy, how we are helping build a more equitable future, obviously sustainability, and keeping the environment in the best shape as possible, and continuing on air quality initiatives, as well as safety. I always want to remind everybody that traveling on Septa is safer than being in a vehicle. It's very important for me. Leading PennDOT for many years, I was just very much well aware of how many traffic deaths in this state we have all the time. And so we had well over 1,000 every single year that I was PennDOT secretary. And when you are on our vehicles, you are anywhere from 10 to 18 times safer. And so just want to make sure that people know that, in addition to helping the environment, in addition to helping us build toward a more equitable future, and in addition to us creating jobs and helping others to get to jobs. Look, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that 2021 is a critical year for us for many reasons. Transportation is not a cost, it is an investment that will accelerate our regional recovery. It will improve and promote inclusive economic growth, equity throughout the region, as well as the environment. I truly feel that in more than our 50-year history, we have never faced a more critical moment than what is in front of us. I'm really honored to be working with this team at this time. And we are, again, coming in every single day to see how we can meet the future's needs and be what we need to be for this region to recover. We have pressing financial, social, environmental issues right now. And more than ever, we know that we play an important role in the health and prosperity, and it's tied to our strength and our success here. We take that responsibility very seriously. I do, and I'm happy to get into the weeds if anybody wants to, of our finances right now. I can tell you what I would love to do in terms of design and branding principles if we had an endless bucket of money in front of us, but we do not. So a lot of hard decisions do need to be made as we move forward. Our employees obviously are a big part of our plan moving forward. And just want to say how incredibly proud I am of our employees who work tirelessly throughout the pandemic and continue to do so every single day to ensure safe travel throughout this region. So with that, I'm happy to open it up to questions and answer anything and listen to any concerns or anything that anyone wants to share with us.
Thank you very much, Leslie. This is very inspiring. In our Zoom presentations, the way we worked out the questions is we use the chat to collect them. And I try to, or whoever's moderating tries to summarize and possibly even group the questions so that every individual question might not get addressed specifically, but we'll try to cover the major themes.
Sure.
And you may see some on the chat that you wish to respond to that we haven't articulated, and that would be wonderful. The first one, I want to integrate two themes about integration. It was the first question came up from Sandy Smith about the very exciting idea of getting more out of regional rail in the city, in the sense that when I first became aware of the rather decrepit station at 49th Street, I realized here's an opportunity for in the city transit. And I think there's a relative success of the Temple station in that regard. But there are many other stations that have been quietly dying. And it is very exciting to many people to think that Septa is thinking about enhancing the power of the regional rail system to provide another level of service that may handle some areas that the heavy rail does not really reach very well. And I want to link that a little bit to the transportation centers, because when I see transportation center on the bus destination, sometimes I think a little bit badly of it, because I know that many of them are really just a bathroom for the drivers and maybe a little office for the dispatcher. And I realize there are much grander plans underway to improve them. And I think they really have a role to play in the redesign of the routes, because efficient, exciting, and pleasant transfers would be one of the major roles of those transportation centers. So a sprawling question, but about the integration of the network.
Sure. So some of the changes that I made coming in, I added a few positions, elevated some positions here. One of them, we now have an assistant general manager of planning, which we did not have before. We are taking on a lot of planning studies. Again, I think the timing is perfect for that as everything is changing around us. We are embarking on a master regional rail plan, which is looking at how regional rail can integrate into our network and looking at all different type of options there. I know people have been discussing that for years, and it happens to be coming at a wonderful time where we do have the free transfer, where we're doing the bus network redesign. We're truly looking to see how we can make our system more efficient for everyone to use, and allowing as many people to use it as possible and as affordably as possible. So we will continue to do that. So over the next 18 months moving forward, again, we need all of your comments as that is coming out and being shared, how that could happen. But we are having those discussions and getting the information we need to make the decisions and see what is possible. Not to get into the weeds on this call unless you want to. Obviously, running a regional rail system is a very different cost benefit analysis than running other modes. Each mode is very different. And so we have to take that into account as well, and how we run it. So a lot of good things to consider. As far as the transportation center comment, I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with what you've been saying. And so we are taking a look at that. Part of the wayfinding and master plan, we'll take a look at that as well, is how we refer to different parts of our system, what's actually available there. Obviously, our employees do need, places where they can get some rest during the day, during their long shifts, where they can figure out where they need to visit restrooms and do other things and have their lunches and their meals. And so we're taking a look at all of that as well. So internally, how we can make the system better for our employees. So we'll continue to do that, and we look forward to your comments.
Okay, another question on, I'm going to integrate several questions here on station design. Many people are very excited about the 5th Street station, which is seems is a great effort, both in the design and the integration of art in the station, and a surprising achievement because coming from the architectural world, I can tell you that there are colleagues in the architectural world who say Septa is not an easy client to work for. And some of that is the natural complexity of working in a big city with many other agencies, but some of it is also a culture. And so the question about station design, though, should really focus on the quality of those stations. That if we had all the stations quality of Fifth Street, I think we'd be very happy. And that's a multi-billion-dollar dream in some ways. But how do you see station design evolving in the upcoming projects? And any comments you might have on the incorporation of art?
Sure. Look, there's no doubt that we are all extremely proud of Fifth Street Station. And if you haven't seen it yet, please come by. I use that station quite often. And even when I'm passing it, it's fun to be, on the Market Frankfurt line and passing it because you get to see the beautiful artwork and the tile work and the inclusive historical references. It was just a fantastic collaborative experience and one that we are all very, very proud of. Again, it was funded in a lot of different ways. We're always open to innovative funding as well and working with different partners. There is no reason why, and it always bothered me, why one of the most historic spots in the entire country did not have, the transit access entry points that it deserved, right? You hop off of Fifth Street, you get to see the Liberty Bell, you get to see Independence Mall, you get to experience the Constitution Center, you get to see, Ben Franklin's house, his resting place, you get to visit so many different museums in the area, and so many people, when they come here and visit the Philadelphia area, that's what they see. And so we wanted to, we're very proud again to have that there. We would love every station to look like that. Again, we don't have limitless resources. And so we'll take project by project as they are presented to us, as the opportunities are there. We do have a renewed effort with mural arts and other art groups as well. We do have our Art in Transit program, and so we will continue, to work together on that. If you have any other ideas, funding resources do limit us. So if you have any other ideas of how we can deliver on that, as well as, consistent high quality stations throughout our system, we're all ears.
A political question and a further part of the introduction, I failed to mention that before you became the head of PennDOT, you had been a Montgomery County Commissioner, which is a legendarily difficult position politically. And historically, SEPTA seemed to suffer from the differing interests of the counties, surrounding counties, and the city. And to some people, that tension seems to have, it's not gone, but seems to be reduced. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. Can you describe your feelings about this? And of course, we have that additional problem, which has held back Philadelphia for many years, is that we're really a region that operates in 3 states. And SEPTA is primarily focused, of course, in Pennsylvania, but it actually touches New Jersey and it touches Delaware. So again, a sprawling question, but about both the county and the structure of SEPTA versus, and then the multi-state region.
Sure. So I have a lot of unique perspectives on that question. I'll touch on a bunch of them, and I'm happy to go deeper into any of them. I have, everyone brings in, their experiences to a job, and I bring mine in, which is unique. I believe the first time this job has ever had that. So I've been a local elected official. I was a township supervisor and chaired that board. for 4 years. Then I had the honor of being Montgomery County Commissioner. I was on that board for 3 years. Who appoints to the Septa Board, by the way. I was a Septa Board member for 3 years. I then had the honor of being Governor Wolf's Secretary of Transportation. Got to work with all the other cabinet members, as well as get an inside look at state funding and how the votes on transit are put together through the state. Just to remind everybody, the majority of people who vote on the state funding for transit don't like Philly. Let's just say that. They're not big fans of southeastern Pennsylvania. So the more regional reach that we have is actually an advantage for us as we start to talk about those types of funding issues. And then here becoming the 11th general manager and CEO of Septa, I'm the only one who brings that being an elected official, being a board member, being a statewide transportation leader to the role. And so I'm also very much aware, having worked on Act 89, which brought increased transportation funding, as well as the fiscal cliff that we all hear about, Act 44, a very important year this year, where transit funding will change. And I've also been the chair of the Turnpike Commission, where $450 million has gone to transit straight from tolls. And so it's the Turnpike, it's PennDOT, it's SEPTA. We're all, working together here. Again, the regional reach is something that does resonate in Harrisburg. Our capital budget, just to let everybody know, our capital budget is almost half of what our sister agencies have. The local match, what a Philadelphia would put in, what the other surrounding counties would come in, is much, much smaller. So for instance, Chicago, Boston, DC, New Jersey Transit, they all have capital budgets well over $1 billion. Our capital budget this year is $617 million. And so what we've been able to do with a capital budget that is nearly half the size of our sister agencies has been incredible. I would love to have that over $1 billion. Imagine what we could be. Imagine the new rail cars we could have. Imagine what our system could look like. We could have many more stations looking like Fifth Street. We could have a lot of good, design principles going, but we just don't have the money to work with. And so I don't think everybody realizes that. So moving forward, we have to figure out, we get half of our funding, both on the operating side and on the capital side from the state. Our local match, which is around 7% on the operating side, 2% on the capital side. It does trigger state and federal funding. We need those matches to get our state and our federal funding. We need local matching to get federal and state grants, as well as funding opportunities. It's very important to us, but we need to have a serious discussion on where our funding comes from and how do we value transit here in southeastern Pennsylvania. I'll end on this one, and I'm happy to go more into the weeds on any of this. We're very fortunate. For instance, the Port Authority of Allegheny County, which is the next largest transit agency in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, they only service one county. And so their ability to access funds and do things are much more limited than ours. I'm thrilled that we're a regional transit agency. It helps with our ridership. It helps with the businesses that we can support. It helps with the mobility challenges in the area. And so it will also help us be a very important part of this economic recovery.
Wow.
That was just my little brief funding discussion. So
that is humbling as far as what we're up against. There may be some other questions on that score, but there's been a group of questions about something that's simpler, but nonetheless very important to a group of customers, and that's bicycles. And there's a question about, are bicycles going to be accommodated on the new trolleys, and should there be more, or could there be more accommodation of bicycles on regional rail? Is another one of the questions that's been asked. But I think it's an opportunity just for a general discussion of bicycle transit integration.
Sure. So just another perspective that I bring, I had the honor of chairing the National Council on Active Transportation, which dealt with pedestrian access, bicycle access, microtransit, access to transit. And I am a huge proponent of, active transportation, as well as how you can access transit through active transportation. Through the pandemic, just because, we were in emergency mode did not mean that we stopped being innovative. We tried new things. We knew that we would have to make changes as we recover from the pandemic. One thing that we tried is allowing bicycles on our regional rail throughout the day, which we hadn't allowed before the pandemic. And we're continuing to gather that information. How often was it used? Of course, it's all, in the scope of the pandemic, so it wasn't under normal circumstances. But there is still a lot of information that we can gather. And so we are looking at that. I personally believe that the more we are accessible and allow the use of bicycles, the more people who will use our system. And so I think it's a very good thing. Of course, it also has, the equity component. It also has the environmental component, and it also helps people get around in the way that they choose to get around. So we'll continue to answer those questions. As far as what the rules will be on our trolleys, the new trolley cars, they give us options that we did not have before. And those decisions will be made through our trolley modernization process, again, which has a big public engagement piece to it. But we're definitely open to that, and open to how do people want to use our system. We do, we're a business. And so we have to figure out ways to make ourselves as user-friendly as possible to everybody who wants to use us. And I believe being, working with the bicycle community is part of that.
Did I mention in the introduction that Septa was voted the best large transit agency in 2012?
You may not have, but I will say I was a board member then, and I was very
One of our questioners has mentioned that, and of course adds the apocryphal line that they kept the system in decent running condition using only duct tape and baling wire.
And that's what happens when you have half the capital budget of all the other agencies that are running legacy lines. We get it done.
Another difficult and sprawling series of questions related to cleaning, maintenance, and equity. The questions on maintenance range from will there be a maintenance program for the graphics once it's instituted, to a very thoughtful question about, we know that Septa did not plan to be a social service organization, but there are people essentially living at Septa bus stops, at stations, and so forth. And so cleaning and maintenance becomes an equity issue and a very complex issue. And many of us were very initially disturbed at the announcements about the Somerset Street station, and very pleased at how fast Septa responded. That something that looked like it was potentially tantamount to a long-term shutdown turned into a relatively short and successful, or reasonably successful process. Can you comment on that, on the challenges of that, and the degree to which you get cooperation from other non-transit agencies in dealing with these issues?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. First of all, yes, maintenance has always been an important part, but it's been even elevated now throughout the pandemic, right? We have to make sure that all of our surfaces are clean. We take our vehicles offline. We've had reduced schedules so that we can deep clean our vehicles multiple times a day. We will continue to do that. We know that that will continue to be very, very important. Our air filtration systems as well have all been upgraded. I love to mention the fact that the air refreshes on our platforms and in our vehicles more often than in an operating room. It is extremely safe in terms of COVID to take transit. There has not been one spreader event in the entire world that has been linked to transit, and that includes countries that have much better contact tracing than we do. So just want to make sure that we put that out. Now, look, we know that our maintenance and our custodial staff, their challenges are, have increased as well. Right now, our operating budget adds 200 new cleaners to the system, and that's how many we feel that we need. And a lot of it is because of the challenges that have been presented since the vulnerable population. Those challenges have been exacerbated throughout the pandemic. We see more and more people experiencing homelessness. Some of them are also have addiction issues, substance addiction, as well as mental health issues. All of the safety nets that people were used to during the pandemic, if they were taking advantage of them, even those had to reduce their hours and some had to close. And so we've seen an increase in the number of vulnerable population. What happens is Septa starts to become a shelter when the shelters are closed. In the beginning, you were talking about a presentation on downstream. You know, I started my career at the EPA with water quality and air quality divisions. I feel like Septa is downstream from many of the social health challenges of the greater Philadelphia region. It's not just in Philadelphia, by the way. It's in Norristown in Montgomery County. It's at 69th Street at Delaware County. You know, we're working with our other counties as well. We know that we want to be part of the solution. We are not here just to move the vulnerable population out of our system. First of all, we couldn't, even if we wanted to, and we don't want to, because there are too many access points to our system. We're very proud to have the large system that we do. You move the vulnerable population out of one area, they will just access the system out of, in another area. We don't have enough workforce, to make sure that every single access point, and we don't want to do it through more policing. We want to do it in a way that actually reduces the number of the vulnerable population. We want to do it in a compassionate way. One thing that I truly got to see up close and understand much better than I had before was when I was a Montgomery County Commissioner. We dealt with intellectual disabilities. We dealt with mental health communities. I personally met with parents of children with mental health issues and with other disabilities, and tried to help them with the stress that they have in their daily lives and what we can do to support them. So I believe very strongly in this. At PennDOT, I was very proud to be the largest employer of people with disabilities. We do the same here at Septa. When we can hire someone with a disability, we do, because we want to make sure that they can, have a good paying job, feel good about themselves, as well as their families know that they can, be part of something larger. And so we will continue to do that. And I'm very, very proud of our co-responder model. In fact, we're getting national attention. It is led by our chief of police here, Chief Nistel, as well as Ken Divers in our operations unit. And what we do there is we partner our police units with social service experts, social workers, with addiction specialists, with mental health specialists. We talk to the vulnerable population on an individual basis. We ask them over and over again if they would like treatment. We let them know where treatment is available. We let them know where temporary housing is available, where they can get permanent housing. We've seen that sometimes you have to ask someone that question multiple times, dozens of times, before they say yes and they're willing to help. I've been able to use some of the networks that I've been lucky enough to form in the other jobs that I've had. We've reached out, we're working with the Department of Human Services at the state level. We're working with the Department of Health. We're working with drug and alcohol programs. Everybody is working together. We're working with housing agencies. We've been working with Pathways for Housing, with Meraki, groups out in Kensington. And we're all trying to do what we can. And so again, we're very proud of what we are doing. We're looking to fund this on a permanent basis. We've done it as a 6 to 12 month pilot. We'll be talking about it at the BPHL. I'm talking about it with our chief of police, with the president of Meraki, and others, just what we've been doing. We share experiences with San Francisco, with LA, with Boston, with Chicago, with other areas that are dealing with this problem as well. And again, I'm really pleased of where we're going. Let me just touch on Kensington briefly, the Somerset station. The elevators were out of commission there. They were damaged beyond repair in many areas due to urination, due to human waste, due to needles being jammed into the mechanical wells for the operations there. We needed to get in there. The communication was not as good as it should have been. The community did not believe, and they were not notified as early as they should have been about it. We went right in there. We talked to the civic groups. We were thrilled once we shut the station down that the repairs could be done faster than we thought. And we invested over $1 million into the Somerset station. We were able to get the elevators back up and running. We were able to reopen the station. We were able to put together, and it's part of this new model we're putting together. We're still looking at community involvement, such as elevator attendance, platform attendance, trying to keep that area clean, trying to keep it safe, trying to work with the community members, and again, getting people into treatment who need it. It is a very large, as you can tell, overwhelming issue, but we are very happy to be working with so many others, including the business community, and we will continue to do so.
Wow, again, I have a very patient, Drew Miller has asked this question twice. When will 24-hour service resume on Friday and Saturday night on the Market Frankfurt and the Broad Street line? Some concern of person also reports some concern of night owl buses passing stops without picking people up. Probably because they didn't see them or because they were in a wheelchair. But general question though on that on the night 24-hour service on the weekends.
Yeah, so actually just today, right before this call, Septa put out a press release about us adding service on all modes as we prepare for more riders, and that is starting September 5th. And so some of the highlights of that, first of all, there'll be new schedules for our buses, our trolleys, our Market Frankfurt line, the Broad Street line, Norristown High Speed line. They'll go into effect this Sunday, which is August 29th. And Monday, August 30th, which is this week. And the new schedules on regional rail will go into effect on Sunday, September 5th. So here are some of the highlights of that. For transit, for our buses, our subways, and our trolleys, the service adjustments that you'll see is that overall service is going to increase to 93% of pre-COVID levels. So we're putting out more service. What that means on the Market Frankfurt line, that will operate with 6-minute headways. That means every 6 minutes you can expect a new to catch a subway, and that'll be Monday through Friday from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. will be that frequency. On Broad Street, we are doing an 8-minute or less headways from the same time. The high frequency bus and trolley routes will operate at pre-COVID levels, all of them. And the 101 and 102 will return to regular trolley service on August 30th. As far as 24-hour service, I will get back to you. The latest update that I had was that we were still pulling off line for certain maintenance and cleaning, but I'm going to have someone on our staff get back to you because I'm not really sure on that 24-hour question. But some highlights on our regional rail. Just want to let you know that goes into effect Sunday, September 1st. Service is going to increase to 63%. I'm sorry, 65% of pre-COVID levels on weekdays. It's going to go a little over 50% on weekends. The Kinwood line is returning with limited service. We will have enhanced weekday morning and evening peak service, and that's including the return of express trips on the Peely, Thorndale, Lansdale, Doylestown, Warminster, West Trenton, Wilmington, and Newark lines. And we'll have enhanced weekend service, which will include, again, it will be 2-hour service, right? We are doing the best we can with the workforce we can right now on Fox Chase, Media, Elwyn, and with Sunday service on Peely, Thorndale. You can look at our website, which will give you those, those details. Also remind everyone, we're offering a big discount on weekly passes. We want to welcome everybody back on board. So starting the week of September 13th and continuing for the following 2 weeks after that, customers can get 25% discount on all weekly trans passes and trail passes. Remind people to renew their key cards if they haven't been on our system in a while. They can do that, and obviously can do that on septa.key and check out septa.org for other updates as well as our app.
A question about areas not well served by the hard rail system. That is the far northeast of Philadelphia and the far southwest of Philadelphia, both vibrant areas with extensive populations that in the southwest, they depend on the streetcars to some extent and cars and personal transportation. The northeast, almost a suburban part of Philadelphia, and there were plans many years ago to either extend the Market Frankfurt line or to extend the Broad Street line up Roosevelt Boulevard, both very, very expensive enterprises. But is there any thinking about those regions or other regions in the city of Philadelphia in terms of extension of the heavy rail? Oh, the other one that comes up, again, very expensive, is extending the Broad Street subway into the Navy Yard.
Yeah. So right now, that those have been discussed before. Obviously, with unlimited money, we'd love to see all of that happen. But with the limited resources that we have right now, the projects of regional significance stay with Trolley Modernization. We're still doing the bus network redesign, the King of Prussia rail. We're servicing areas of the boulevard, up in northeast Philadelphia. We're looking at different types of bus options and making sure that our bus network redesign takes a look at that. Again, being able to use the free transfer so people don't need just a one seat connection to get where they are. And we're going to see, how that plays out. Obviously, building new subways is an extremely costly thing moving forward. And as you can imagine, the permitting involved as well is also something, and the environmental studies needed is also something that are huge obstacles that we have to work around. So at this time, while those options are still out there without major infrastructure funding, and I realized with all the funding I didn't mention, I do want to say, while we're grateful for the infrastructure money that's being discussed in this current bill, and yes, while it is a historic investment in transit, from what we can tell from the language that we've seen, at best, it will increase our our funding levels by 20%. And like I told you, we are more than, we're 50% behind our legacy colleagues. And it won't close that gap because everyone will get that amount. So then they'll be able to invest more. So I just wanted to let people know that this federal bill is not solving any of our long-term problems, although the extra investment will be appreciated and put to good use.
Very interesting. Oh, great challenge. And of course, great opportunity for the bus system redo. A question here about the old labeling of lines that goes back to Professor Vucek, the R system, I believe, and which many people found confusing and was eventually abandoned. But one of the motivations of that was to try to get people to use the heavy rail, the regional rail for regional access, both to get from Delaware County to Trenton, for example, with one seat ride. If you knew which train was going to do that, is the naming and coordinating of these routes part of the wayfinding process at this point?
It's all up for discussion. And so again, we'll be putting out the concepts. Would anyone be surprised that I just spoke to Dr. Vucek last week about this very, this very issue? He was a professor at Penn when I was a student at Penn. And so, so that conversation continues with others as well. And so again, I am very interested, and I have, we are open to where this discussion will go, but very interested in what the public has to say and what will make our system easier to use for everyone. Again, reminding people that we want it to be easy to use for people who don't speak English as their first language. We want it to be easy to use for people who are visiting and taking advantage of our wonderful tourism area and visiting friends and family in the area. And so we don't want it to be a system that only makes sense to people who have a PhD and living in southeastern Pennsylvania, because sometimes that's what it feels like. That's what you need to get around our system.
A couple of questions that maybe come under the title of transit-oriented development. That one respondent mentions that some of the renderings of the King of Prussia line look like rail stations in the middle of parking lots, or rail stations with a lot of empty space. And of course, we know that transportation access fosters economic value of land and development opportunities. But once again, Septa is not a real estate company in some sense, but there's value capture propositions there that certainly the historic railroads were very much aware of. And there's also lots of issues in the city. I mean, one could argue that the entire city of Philadelphia is a transit-oriented development opportunity, not just the trolley lines, but is there interaction there with other agencies or with particularly maybe with city planning in terms of zoning and development issues?
Yes, look, we've had multiple conversations with local township elected officials, with county elected officials, with the businesses. We work very closely with the BID out there, which is the business group, of what is it that they need. Personally, just from my background and the other jobs that I've had, I see the tremendous opportunity for areas like Upper Darby, like Norristown, to benefit from King of Prussia Rail. People could choose to live in those areas and work in King of Prussia. They won't need a car. They can get in and out. They won't have to sit in one of the most congested areas, not just in Pennsylvania, but in the country, that King of Prussia area. And so there's a lot of value. As the studies were done, the parking available at those stations were what they heard was needed from the local communities, from the business communities. moving forward. We are moving toward 30% design in that project. Things can change as needs start to change. But I can tell you, we will continue to deal with the public on that, and we have already done that, and that's what got us to where we are right now. Again, if parking requirements change, we will make those changes, and we're happy to continue those discussions.
Maybe moving a little bit towards a conclusion here, because we know you have a few other obligations, to put it mildly. One of our questions was, how can we help you? And it seems obvious that one of the ways we can help you is to participate in the public outreach events that you have structured and that are forthcoming on the wayfinding in particular. And another would be to continue to advocate more capital funds for Septa. But can you comment maybe in a little more detail about where public support is most valuable to you?
Yeah. First of all, there's going to be multiple opportunities for community engagement, especially from our design community, right? With the wayfinding coming out, and then as employers, how you use our system, how you would like to use our system. I truly believe that transit access is an employee benefit, right, to anybody who lives along our line or who works, along our line. So letting us know, is that the case? How can we work together with you? If you have any ideas on how to make our system more equitable, we're open to those ideas. And yes, funding is going to be a very big theme this year, especially, hate to drop this on you in the last 5 minutes that we're going to be spending together, but the way that funding is done with Act 44 and Act 89 right now, with the Turnpike borrowing, the money going to PennDOT distributing the money to transit agencies throughout the Commonwealth, that changes at the end of this year. And now it's supposed to come out of the general fund, but no increase to the general fund. So the money that comes from vehicle sales tax is supposed to be used for transit. There are many state legislators who don't want that to happen. And there is a very, I should say there is the possibility that transit funding could stop altogether. And when I tell you that 50% of the state funding, that's how we get our funding, 50% of our funding is from the state, this is huge, right? Right now, 187 million of our capital budget comes directly from this transfer of funds from the Turnpike to transit, to Septa, to PennDOT to Septa. Now, I advocate for all transit, by the way, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Septa happens to be one of the largest employers. We are the largest by far of any other transit agency, but this is how the elderly, how people with disabilities, how those with mobility challenges get around, get to do their daily activities, get to their jobs, take care of themselves. And so every single county, all 67 in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, is real that we're all in bad shape here. And so we will need your help in talking to your legislators. Nothing speaks louder or clearer than a constituent calling their state reps, their state senators about what they care about. Now, our Southeastern Pennsylvania delegation, I will tell you, gets it. They have been extremely supportive. We need to get this message out to the legislators who may not be in Southeastern Pennsylvania, who may have never stepped a foot on Septa or transit in general. And so we are going to be putting out talking points. We are going to have our communications team helping people and who they can reach out to. So we will be asking your help for that. This funding change is scheduled to happen June 30th of next year. So please pay attention, but we will engage you in a meaningful way.
I think at this point, maybe I should turn it over to Eli with a big thank you, Leslie, for spending so much time with us. And I would note that just now I checked, there's 87 people on. It may have been higher a few, at the peak.
We were over 100. We were well over.
At
100.
over 100.
That's great. And really good questions. I'm sure I was unable to look, but I saw the chat going through. So, if we, I'd be happy to make our team available to answer, additional questions.
And we'll be sure to share the chat with you afterwards. So
that would be wonderful.
You can
Yeah.
see all those questions when you have a little more time to look at them.
Mhm.
I can also confirm that Lex has been in touch. He is he and I are having a preview conversation on Wednesday, and we'll be talking about when he can come back to DAG and give a more thorough presentation on the review.
That would be great. And I appreciate it. Lex is a wonderful example of the passionate people we have working here, and we have many. And I'm just like so happy to have people are here who want to make us better every single day. So with your help, that's what we'll be doing together.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we'll have another SEPTA presentation at some point once I coordinate with Lex and get Marcia involved. Thank you for taking questions. For everyone who's still on the line, we'll hopefully see you either September 9th for the Denise Scott Brown photography exhibition up at Temple, or back here next month for the DAG presentation where we look at the Schuylkill charrette with Nanda Macaulay. So thanks everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you shortly.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you.
Thank you. Hope to see you all in the system soon.